Hello, hello. Welcome again to my channel of Education System Reboot. Today I wanted to kind of talk about the idea of a concept or a phrase I've been using a lot in my teaching. And I think let me just say what the phrase is. That would be smart too. Life is simple but not easy. And I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm hoping over time I'll get more examples and feel more confident. So really this is in the early stages of development. But I believe that everything in life is simple but not easy. And I think a lot of times we say to kids it's easy, or you can do, like that we'll say simple and easy, and they think we mean the same thing. And so I want to kind of unpack that concept and hopefully give some examples and kind of give us some thoughts or hopefully ideas about how we might teach kids how things are very simple, but give them an encouragement that even if they're not easy, they are simple. And so if you continually go through a simple process in life over time, number one, it will get easier. And number two, you'll achieve things. So what I wanted to start with is just some basic examples that I think we can all, I hope, agree on, or at least maybe even go, okay, I can acknowledge that there's some truth to that. So just some ideas of simple but not easy. And first one is, let's just budgeting, right? The concept of budgeting is simple, or, don't spend more money than you get. That's pretty simple. What gets in the way? What makes it not easy? We do. Life, right? Life. I mean, and let's be honest, of course, life is hard. Of course, it's not easy to navigate sort of things, especially as you grow older and have kids and have other expenses, and life is hard. But in its simplest form, if you would like to budget or have money at the end of the month, don't spend more money than you have. Again, I think what the other theme on this, as I unpack this, is going to be that life is usually what gets in the way of making things not easy. Another one I thought about is just, losing weight or exercising. You could do it either way. It's like, okay, well, if you want to lose weight from the eating perspective, well, don't eat as many calories. Okay, it's very simple. It's the same concept of budgeting. It's like, don't eat more than you expel in energy. Now, exercise, again, let's be honest. I think we all understand. It's like, if you want to get in better shape, you need to exercise. Simple. But what gets in the way most of the time? Life, right? Our emotions, our other people's expectations, our busy schedules. I mean, let's be honest. We could go down the list of all the excuses of why we don't do something. But if we ignore those for a sec and just ask ourselves, is the process of achieving something simple? I think the answer is yes. With education, I wrote some notes. And again, it's like, if we want kids to be successful in education, it's very simple. Study, habits, show up, turn in your work. That's it. What gets in the way? Life, right? What makes it not easy? Life. Okay. So again, I actually, let me give one more example, because as a music teacher, this is where I think I kind of started thinking about this. As a music teacher, when I'm trying to think about how do I explain and teach the art of music, and get kids to understand, number one is I want to make what I say simple, because if I make it complicated, then chances are kids aren't going to understand it. And so the simpler I can make the idea of music, the better, right? But even if it's simple, a lot of times it's not easy. So let me just give a specific example. So as a French horn player, French horn teacher, the first thing I would say is the process of learning the French horn is simple. And I think I've kind of touched on this in other videos, so I'm expanding on it. First thing is you got to learn how to buzz your lips. That's it. That's it. And I have a process for teaching that if I need to. But the point is, that's it. You put a mouthpiece over it and you put it on the instrument, but that's its simplest form. You got to learn how to buzz your lips. Second, simple process. You've got to learn what the symbols mean. The symbols in music are very intuitive, in my opinion. Again, but they're simply laid out. There are rules that govern it. So once you understand the simple idea of reading music, they never change. Everything's consistent. It's a simple process. Now, it might be difficult to learn because everybody has different, strengths and weaknesses. But from a process perspective, it's very simple. You combine those things, right? the ability to read music, the ability to buzz, and then there's a few other things like, okay, now you got to be able to use your tongue articulation. But basically everything can be broken down into very simple steps, but then you have to go through those steps for a long period of time and then improve sequentially, I guess is the word I like, on those steps. And you have to improve that way. So again, kind of coming back to the beginning and why I'm choosing to talk about this subject is I believe as a society, we tend to think that simple and easy mean the same thing. And I feel like when I'm thinking about how to teach better, how to live my life better, how to influence others in a more positive way, that if we could come to an agreement that basically means that simple and easy don't mean the same thing, I think it could help us. I think it would help with patience. Think it would help with grit. I think students would be more apt to understand that the process that we're asking them to do is very simple. But if we acknowledge that it's not easy, I don't know, at least I would feel better about that. I don't know if you would, but that's just what I would feel better about. If we acknowledge that it's not necessarily easy, I think kids would be more willing to say, okay, well, I understand this is a simple process, so I will keep at it until it gets easier, right? But again, we have to acknowledge certain facts about our society, that living in a everything at our fingertips world is hard. And I always kind of laugh because I feel like I'm in this weird position. I'm 40 years old. I remember no internet. I can remember dial-up internet. I can remember smartphones, non-smartphones where I could text, and the only thing I could do on my phone was play that little game where you would eat a block and it would get long. I don't know, it's like Snake or something. I don't know what it's called, but I have now experienced the beauty of everything technology has to offer. But what this gives me is, I think, the unique perspective, and I'm sure anybody my age would kind of understand, I hope relate to this, is like we kind of see the benefits, but we also can see the downsides. We can see firsthand, like, we can see how kids are changing. We can see that. And so I look at all this big picture and I say to myself, okay, how do we communicate to kids to help motivate them? Well, number one, we understand from the beginning that we're in a world where it's going to be a little bit more challenging. It's not as easy as it used to be. But if we keep focusing on a process, a simple system, a simple process, we can balance out or maybe even overcome this anxiety, this, what's the right word here? Maybe not anxiety, but this inclination for kids to be impatient, to not be willing to try because they didn't get it the first time. But also maybe just acknowledging. I mean, we have to be consistent on point on the message to students. I believe that we understand where they're coming from, but it doesn't change the fact that we need to strive for simplicity in our life, and we need to strive for excellence, and we need to strive for doing what's right. All right, so all of this kind of comes full circle in the sense of this. How do we use this idea of simple but not easy in education? Well, I think number one, we have to look at ourselves and how we teach and ask ourselves, is the process that we're presenting to our kids, is it simplistic? No, I don't like the word simplistic. Is it simple? Because simplistic implies it's just like that it's easy. So right now my brain is thinking about all these things I want to connect to this. And again, this is where I'm trying to stay on point here. But this idea of simple but not easy, again, I think is universal. I have some trusted friends of mine and people that I mentor or mentor me. And I brought this up to them and I said, I think everything in life is simple but not easy. And I said, I want to be challenged on this. And one of my mentors, brought up the idea of certain like specifics in terms of something that we're all trying to do, which is, again, personal growth. We're trying to read, we're trying to listen to audios and stuff. And he said to me, it's like, well, it's easy to pick up a book, right? And it's easy to do these things. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, he's right in the sense that when you have a specific small task, right, a small portion of something, it is very easy to do it. It's simple and easy. The problem is, I think, is when we're living under a system, right? Because we live in systems, right? We've got education system, we've got the financial system, we've got relationship systems, we've got family systems, structures. We're completely, constantly under some umbrella of a system. So a system is a collection of small things that all combine to make whatever that system is. And so when he pointed this out to me, I thought, okay, that makes sense. But then I thought, well, but what he's doing is he's giving this small example, right? So like, I'm going to use the personal growth system. Okay. So in my life, I'm trying to read daily. I'm trying to exercise daily. I listen to an audio while I exercise daily. Within my personal growth, I'm trying to establish systems of prayer and journaling and other things daily, all of those. And so if I think of each of those as their own thing, I would actually agree that both like reading a book could be simple and easy. Listening to an audio could be simple and easy. The problem is when you combine it all, the collection of it, and being human beings who are failed, flawed, and basically, again, struggle with motivation sometimes and struggle with emotions and struggle with all this stuff, is the collective system. Everything about it is simple, right? It is a simple process to read a book. It is a simple process to listen to a personal growth audio. It's a simple process, honestly, to exercise every day. It's a simple process to all these things. But because we are human beings, it's not easy. And so I just started a book, Atomic Habits, by James Clear. I think I've referenced him a few times. And, he's got this great saying. Now, again, I don't know if he got it from someone else, but it's like, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, right? And he's talking about systems. And it's funny. I've always intuitively, I think, known that as a musician because I have to develop practice systems. I have to develop systems constantly to achieve goals. And again, I might be unique in this point, but I've never really been motivated by goals. I've been motivated by this sense of what I'm doing is working, right? So to me, that means I've always been motivated by finding a system that feels like it's working for me. And again, see, systems in general are designed to simplify your life. They're never going to say, at least I don't think they would say that they're there to make your life easier necessarily. They are there, though, if you create the right systems for you and create the right habits, it does become kind of second nature. And it does remove, I think, the idea of easy over to simple. Anyway, like I said, the main purpose of this particular live stream or just a video was to just kind of start this thought process, this seed of simple but not easy. And I don't know about you, but I know that when I can say and look in the mirror and say, what I'm doing is simple, but it won't be easy. I think to myself, although if it's not easy for me, it's probably not easy for everyone. Well, then what's the alternative? Just keep pushing through. Keep at it, right? It's almost like going from learning to trust the system, right? And learning that it might never be easy, but it's rewarding. It creates the results we want. And so again, all of this is to say, since I'm bringing it back to Education Reboot, is number one, I guess, is as a teacher, we have to ask ourselves, what are our core values? What are our simple values or our simple processes? And then I would say, do we model that process every day? And when I look at my own designing of curriculum, designing of how I teach music education, I think I can hold my head high and I can look in a mirror and say, yes, everything I do in my teaching of music is also reflected in how I live my life as a professional musician, how I'm trying to live my life as a personal growth, a lifelong learner. The idea is routines and systems. If you saw the way I teach in the music classroom, I think you'd see clear systems, because again, I believe the system or the simple nature of a clear system done over time creates that consistent effort over time, which then equals success. So again, I don't know if any of this is of help. I just know that I have lots of thoughts and ideas, and if I can't get them out of my head and out into the real world, they just live in a vacuum, right? They live in theory. And so again, like I said, this is the main goal of why I try to make these videos. It's a great outlet for me too, because like I said, if I have a great idea, if any of this rings true for anyone, well, then it also needs to be put under a little bit of scrutiny. It needs to be put out. People have other ideas. But again, in closing, if this idea of simple but not easy resonates with you in any form or fashion, I hope that it, what's the word I'm looking for? I hope that you find some merit in this, or it just gets your brain thinking, because I'm looking at a lot of things in my life that I'm trying to change it for the better. And I keep coming back to, well, it's just a simple choice. It's a choice of making a commitment to a certain simple system. And if I follow through, I have noticed over the last 7-8 months, so much of my life seems clearer and easier because I've made it simpler. That does not mean that I do not fail every day, probably in some area. It does not mean that I don't have moments where my emotions and my frustrations and my human nature takes over. I feel things deeply. Maybe that's the other reason I want to find simple systems, just so I can kind of be more logical. In my own, if I'm being completely vulnerable and transparent, at times my emotions have run my life, and I don't want to be a Vulcan, right? I don't want to be only logic, but I want to be able to look and really find the balance between what emotions, the gifts of emotions, but learn how to balance them with the gifts of logic, and learning how to really just, again, create a life and create a character in myself that I can, again, be proud of and look in the mirror. I can pass on to my kids. I mean, I don't know. There's just so many things, but like I said in this whole video, it's like it kind of could come back to a simple thing: is break things down into the simplest system. Just recognize it won't be easy. So anyway, thank you for your time. As always, consistent effort over time equals success. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.